You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. This week, my guest is recently retired pro footballer and former Manchester United midfielder, Tom Cleverley. At just 12 years old, Tom joined Manchester United, one of the most successful football clubs in the entire world. Tom went on to have a successful pro football career that spanned 15 years at the top of his sport and included winning a Premier League title in 2013. On the international stage, Tom played for England's national team and also represented Great Britain at the 2012 Olympics. Over the past few years, Tom has played for Watford FC, where he has served as the club's captain since 2022. In July, Tom announced his retirement due to injuries, officially ending his professional playing career at just 33 years old. But Tom is just getting started, and he's ready to work his way up the ladder again, this time as a coach. Less than a month after announcing his retirement, Tom has rejoined Watford FC as the club's under-18 lead coach. Tom and I recently sat down to explore his remarkable playing career and the new journey he's embarking on in coaching. Tom gave me a behind-the-scenes look at many of the life and career lessons he learned playing for some of the most elite football clubs in the world, including Manchester United. He shared powerful advice on how to grow when you're outside your comfort zone, lead with accountability, overcome your doubts, and so much more. This episode is absolutely jam-packed with career and life lessons that all of us can apply to our own lives. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Tom Cleverley. Where I want to begin, I want to go way back. I want to go back to your childhood. When was the first time you played football, and did you know right away that you were pretty good?
Yeah, well, it was about 4 or 5 years old. You start going to Saturday morning football, which is pretty common in England, that everyone gets into football so young. At the time, me personally, no, I didn't. My dad tells a different story, that the coaches were saying, oh, he's pretty good, he's got a chance. But I think you can really not grasp that you've got a chance of a career until you're well into your teens. So yeah, 4 or 5 years old, Saturday morning casual. 7 or 8, I joined my first team locally. And then 9, joined my first academy, which was my local team in Bradford. From there, 12 years old, got scouted for Manchester United, and that's where my journey, one of the world's biggest clubs, started.
What is that process like? So you're 12 years old and Manchester United starts scouting you for the youth team, youth academy. What does that process involve? Are your parents involved? How does that all come together?
Yeah, so that they will have a scouting network of maybe into the hundreds, scouting regionally. And at that age, you're only allowed to scout within an hour of your training facility. So they've got a catchment area that spans to like Bradford, where I was from, which was an hour away. So the scout would contact your parents, say we'd like to take him on a 6-week trial, and then it's down to you to impress. So I was pretty oblivious to what was going on. And then when you do get signed, that's when sort of the pressures begin, and it feels like more than just a hobby.
I'm curious, you said there that the pressure begins when you get signed. That's 6 weeks when you're going out on that tryout with that scout. What were you feeling then? Were you not feeling any pressure at that point?
I was, but more socially. You're a 12-year-old kid who's come into a dressing room of 20 other kids who you have no idea who they are. You've never met them before. So that's quite challenging for a 12-year-old kid at the time. But I think I recall in my 6-week trial period, I wasn't sort of aware of how big this could be or how big the club was. I was just, I think I had interest from Leeds and Blackburn, two other big clubs in the north of England. So at the time, I think I just embraced the football side of things. And then once I got signed, my school made a big thing of it. And then you start realizing, wow, this is pretty big what I'm doing. And then, the pressures sort of grow from then onwards, really. You're not just competing with the best kids in your school or your area, you're competing with the best kids nationally. And when you hit 14, 15, 16, sort of on a European level as well.
And you're 12 years old and you sign this contract. What happens next? Do they put you in a group of similarly talented kids? What happens? What does that look like? What's the academy experience like?
Each age group, so 1 year, you split into your school years. Each age group has about 20 players. So the under 12s, the under 13s, the under 14s, each will have about 20 kids. And they say around one, if you're lucky, 2 of those 20 will make it through to your first team. So it's a very competitive environment. You stay at the school that you're in. So my school was an hour away, and 4 times a week, you're driving to Manchester, which was 1 hour there, 1 hour back. So for my mum, who was living on her own at the time, it's a massively challenging period. I was lucky that I didn't have any brothers or sisters to sort of dilute her time. But it was a challenging period for a young kid of 12. The sacrifices you have to make with your friends and with your schoolwork, it's pretty big. And for some people, it turns out not to be worth it. For me, that wasn't the case.
Was there a moment that you felt like, hey, this could be worth it? I'm separating myself from the other 19 at my age level?
That came pretty late for me. I was physically a late developer, and that's not unusual. I'm seeing that from the coaching side of things now. You try and give your late developers, if you see potential, as much time as possible to go through that physical growth. And so for me, I didn't really become confident that this could be a career for me until 17, I'd say. 17, I was constantly like treading water in the Man United system. And then at 16, 17, when I started to grow physically, is when I started to flourish and sort of believe in myself.
How did you go about focusing on improvement and growing as a player, both physically and mentally? I mean, there's only so much you can control physically, right? There's only so much you can do to increase your speed, increase your size. Were you doing things mentally from a mindset perspective to try and separate yourself? What were you working on?
At that age, I wasn't sort of developing other areas of my game, sort of because I wasn't aware of it. So what I would do is the 4 times that I'd be on site training, I'd look to have the best attitude, work the hardest, which is 2 things that have always stuck with me. Now I'm coaching the under 18s at Watford now, and you see guys doing a lot of work externally, which is great. It's great attitude. Sometimes it can be detrimental in the fact that you're working things that the coaches are not supporting, or we work them so hard on site that you want them to recover in their downtime. So back when I was a kid, all the external sort of one-on-one coaches were not really a thing in England. So at the time, I was literally just focusing on the 2 hours I was there 4 times a week. I will try to be the best I can, have the best attitude, and work the hardest. And it was as simple as that.
Where do you think that attitude and that work ethic came from or comes from? Because you're still bringing so much energy to what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get a lot from my mum's side of the family, from a working class town in Bradford. She still works full time now to this day. So yeah, I think she has to take a lot of credit for that. I've just always had that gene in me to, if I have a goal and motivated to do something, I will give everything to do so. And I suppose I'm quite a unique guest in the fact that I've started at the at the bottom of the ladder and worked the way to the top as a player. And now I'm back to the bottom of the ladder as a coach. And I have the same goals, the same visions to reach the top. And I'm going to have to go through the same challenges as a coach because, nothing's given to you in football. You have to work for it.
Tom, let's dig into that a little bit more. So, I mean, you talked about there as a player, I mean, working your way up from the bottom all the way to the top of your sport. You also, a few minutes ago, used that phrase, treading water. There was a lot of times in your career you were treading water at that, in those early years. You experienced a lot of change, like lots of different loans out to different clubs, playing in different environments. I know, you've experienced a lot of injuries in particular, at the end of your career too, injuries kind of forced you into retirement to an extent. What do you think it was about your mindset and your approach that enabled you to successfully tread water when you were treading water and enabled you to adapt to changing environments seemingly quite often throughout your career?
When we say treading water, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Yes, it means you're surviving, but it means you're challenging yourself to the absolute maximum. And those early years of treading water were down to physical late development. Then when I got my confidence, I'd say the loan moves and everything were not so much treading water. They're all part and parcel of being a young player at the biggest club in the world, having to be patient. There's 3-4 marquee signings per summer. So it's a tough route to go down. But I suppose that treading water stage I went through really put me in good stead because I'm one of those people who is comfortable being uncomfortable, both like pain threshold, hard work threshold. So I see the treading water. Okay, you're sort of surviving and not thriving, but I saw it as a good characteristic to develop so early.
A really important point, Tom, and I think anybody listening can take away, right? I mean, and I'm making some notes here. I mean, treading water. You've changed my perspective on treading water. Treading water is not, it has this kind of negative connotation, maybe initially as I was thinking about it, but it's the zone in which you're growing and you're developing and it's challenging you and it's pushing you outside of your comfort zone. I'm curious, are there things that you would do in those stages to make sure you had the right mentality and make sure that you were moving forward? Like when you feel like you're in a treading water stage, as you would put it, like what are the things that you're doing to try and get comfortable in an uncomfortable situation?
That's a good question. I think to some of us it comes naturally. Physically, I was behind. I would make sure I'd be the most intelligent player. So I'd constantly watch intelligent players, plays in my mould, small pass and move midfielders. So if in one aspect of your game you were treading water, as we say, you try and flourish in all other aspects. So I'd try to be the fittest. I would, like I said, I'd try to have the best attitude. I'd watch other players, try to be the most intelligent, be ahead of the game. Even though physically you weren't the quickest, try mentally be the sharpest. So there's always sort of find your strengths, develop them as much as you can, and hope that your weaknesses will just catch up. And that's certainly in the first parts of my career. That's what I did.
Would it be fair to say, and just recapping what you said there, you spent more time kind of cultivating your strengths as opposed to fixating on trying to correct weaknesses? Is that true?
Yeah, certainly at that stage of my career, because I knew my weaknesses I couldn't do anything about. It was just being patient for me to physically grow. As you develop older and older, then yes, you have to try and some things that are your weaknesses, you have to try and improve them. But I've been a player you always have to play to your strengths and try and hide your weaknesses as best you can, I suppose.
Play to your strengths and hide your weaknesses. I think that's an important lesson anybody in any industry could take and work with. You've been around so many elite players, so many elite coaches and managers. You've been on Olympic teams. You've been on the England national team. You've been at Manchester and so many different great clubs. When you think about the difference between great teams, elite teams, and good teams, like what do you think the separator is between the great teams and the good teams?
A mentality. a mentality to, you see a lot of good teams win the Premier League once. What I couldn't believe when I first stepped into a dressing room of Rooney, Ferdinand, Van Persie, Scholes, Giggs, I couldn't believe that these guys had won 7, 8 Premier Leagues and they were like they were going for the first again. I could not believe the desire they had after 10 years at the top. It was like mind blowing. And the challenges that come, I saw the challenges that can come in a 2 to 3 year period. So the challenges that those guys have overcome and still sort of blank out all the noise, tunnel vision, go for these titles like it was the first. It was the mentality. It was a mentality of being at a big club. So you could have Man United playing at a level that, let's say, Everton were playing at the exact same level, but just because Man United had to win, because you have to win there, they'd get the job done. Even if both teams were at the same level, it's just that mentality of, no, we have to win. Everton want to win, we have to win. I'm not paying any disrespect to Everton. At the time, there was 16, 17 other clubs in the league like that. And it was just an absolute tunnel vision winners mentality that I was really impressed with.
The difference between wanting to win and having to win. What a powerful message. So what do you remember most about 2012, 2013, that season when you're part of winning the Premier League title? Is there one or two things that really stand out when you said, hey, like, I think this could happen, or, an experience that you're just going to remember and cherish for the rest of your life as part of that whole experience?
Yeah, so it's a question I've not put much thought into. First thing I'd say was the season before we lost the league on the last day of the season on goal difference. We were coming back motivated, really motivated, and we lost it to our rivals, Man City. The second thing is we signed Robin Van Persie, who was like everything he touched went in the top corner, went in the bottom corner. And the third thing was just the relentlessness we had. We gained the 10-point advantage and we managed to just keep everyone off right till the end of the season. And I think we lost against Man City when we were close to winning the league. And yeah, it was not like the manager. I can just remember the manager going crazy and like just constantly driving the standards. And so, yeah, those three things, it was Van Persie, the sour taste from the season before, and the once we smelt the blood, we went for the kill and didn't look back.
I've got to believe that sour taste paired with that mentality of we have to win that you said kind of pervades Manchester United kind of through and through. When you put those two together, it's like a lethal combination.
Yeah, and this is when Man City were coming really strong. Obviously, Liverpool had gone through a bit of a dip, but I just remember there were so many tight games that season where really should have been draws, but we just had many moments from Van Persie, individual brilliance from Rooney. We turned so many games that should have been draws to wins that season, and that was all through mentality, I think.
In addition to the mentality, do you think there were little things that you remember, like little things that seem like little things at the time, but that when you stack them together are really big things? Like maybe it was more attention to detail, or maybe it was doing something in training that you hadn't done before. Like, were there little things that at the time you, again, thought they were subtle, thought they were little, but maybe they had a massive impact?
Yeah. The older players were really good in setting a stall out. Young players had to stay grounded. The demands on the young players were so big, just so no one got too big for the boots. There was never excuses, never any excuses. Like, they were weaknesses. There wasn't a moaning culture at the club. There was sort of people would dig people out, but they would never moan at each other. Sort of that. I've seen that happen in clubs where it becomes infectious and a blame culture, and there was none of that. There was a lot of responsibility and accountability for losses, for bad performances. And yeah, it was driven by the manager. and the older players. I was so lucky to step into a dressing room full of not only such good players, but really strong characters and mentality like monsters. Yeah.
Mentality like monsters. Accountability is a word you use there, Tom, and accountability is a word that we talk a lot about on this show. To you, what does accountability look like?
It's looking in the mirror first for me. It's something I've been really good at throughout my whole career. Probably too good at, because you carry a lot with you. But if there's a loss, there's a bad performance, look at yourself first, which is not easy to do in the team sport of squads of 20. There's a lot of sort of external things you can point fingers at. But for me, look in the mirror first. What could I have done better? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What am I going to do about putting it right? And I think as much noise as you can keep within yourself rather than pointing fingers, and the better through the hard times, for sure.
How do you navigate the public pressure? I mean, you've stated publicly that, sometimes the social media stuff would be frustrating for you, and it's as glamorous as this job may seem, it's challenging because everybody on the outside thinks they have an opinion and, can be critical of people inside the dressing room. How did you manage that throughout your career?
I'd say very poorly to begin with. Obviously, newspapers, so the birth of social media for a 22, 23-year-old kid who thought he was doing well. I was out of a small town playing for the biggest club in the world, but there I was sitting there feeling like a failure. So I should have been celebrating as a success. I was down in the dumps thinking I was a failure. We had a poor season, 13-14. The external pressures got too much. And yeah, I was down outside of football. I was down inside of football. I was lacking confidence. But I suppose that 18-month period I have really did make me thicker skinned. But for that period, my game took a hit. My personal life took a hit. And I've got to take my hat off to people who can come through these periods and get back to the top, because I struggled to do that. You look at people like Raheem Sterling, Saka after the Euros. These guys have took massive, massive criticism publicly, and they shrug it off and straight back to the top of the games. And it is seriously impressive, because it did get the better of me for 12 to 18 months.
Was there a point in that 12 to 18 months that you began to process it better, that you figured out a way to cope with it better? How did you go through that?
I think just take it back to basics. You can't control a lot of outside noise. So control what you can control. Make sure your preparation is as good as it can be. That's how you live in, diet, gym, analysis, and just trust the process that if you're doing everything you can, preparing as well as you can, that your performances will take care of themselves. And try and switch off from football. I mean, as a coach, it's much easier done. As a coach, your hours at work are probably double. But as a coach, you're not always having to think about what you eat. You're not always thinking about, I need to get to bed for 10 p.m. Being a footballer is a 24-hour job, and it's really difficult to switch off. But if you have got that skill to switch off from football or reading papers or social media, then I think it certainly helps.
At the end of your playing career in Watford, you served as the team captain. Obviously, just a tremendous leader, tremendous perspective and wisdom that you're able to bring to the young players. You mentioned it earlier. You've now transitioned to the coaching phase of your career, and you are going to bring the same energy and motivation to climb the coaching ladder the same way you did as a player in your sport. I'm curious, what's been the most interesting part of the transition from player to coach for you over the last month or two?
I've always enjoyed that aspect as captain, sort of not putting yourself first, no ego, trying to sort of galvanise 9, 10 different cultures, backgrounds. And so I'm enjoying that task now. With the youth team, it's all local lads, but from different parts of London. You can get a lot of different cultures. I really, really enjoy that side of the job. And yeah, and I suppose I like seeing sort of the guys making the same mistakes I made 15, 16 years ago. That part's enjoyable because I suppose they have to make these mistakes to make themselves better. But I feel like they're with the right guy to sort of get them on the right path. And I'm really enjoying that side of the job. I've been passionate about improving people and improving players for a long time now. Probably as far back as I came to Watford in 2017 is when I thought I could really help young players with my voice, with my actions, examples. And so, yeah, I won't say the specific part of the job, but as a package, I'm loving it and I feel like I'm cut out for it.
Do you think there's been a change in, over the years in the relationship between the younger players and the more experienced players? I mean, you're not an old guy. You're 33 or 34, whatever it is, Tom. And then you've got these U18 players that you're working with. Do they have the same appreciation for an experienced older player the way you did years ago when you were in their boots?
No, that's changed with society. It's not just a football thing. I think that's a society thing. They're all respectful, but to what level? Not to the level that we were. Sort of, I remember getting my first, say, someone coming to me saying, "You're training with the first team today," and like the nerves that hit you because you were in awe of these older guys. Now that's a little bit less. And I think, I don't think there's any going back on that. What I try and say to my players are, all right, we see a social media character now of these top players. So take Paul Pogba or someone like that. You see him on social media and you think that all those materialistic things have come to him. Nah, he's gone through a journey to get there. He's worked. He was probably the best young player I've ever seen. So, I think our guys sort of think that all this stuff, just you click your fingers and overnight, everyone wants the get rich quick version of football now. But I educate the guys. That's not how it is. It takes all the respect of the older players and what they've been through to get where they are, all the hours on the pitch, the training field. So, I try and educate them, but I don't think we're ever going to get it back to the levels of respect we had 15, 20 years ago.
When you think back on your playing career, Tom, is there one thing that stands out that you're just really grateful for and really appreciate?
Yeah, in football, you have to be lucky. Sort of, you work for your own luck, but you've got to have the right person watching you, the right person like you. And I was lucky to be at Manchester United in such a successful era for the club under the greatest manager who's worked in this country, along with some of the greatest players. I was lucky to fall through an academy system at that very time. And I'm be forever grateful of that.
I'm a big believer that success is when you bring together a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work. And like you said, you work hard and sometimes you create your own luck and you need other people to look out for you at times and give you opportunities like you had. And that's what you're doing for those younger players now. You're reaching back down and you're trying to help them just like there were more senior players who helped you. Tom, this has been so much fun. I've enjoyed getting a behind the scenes look at your career as a player at Manchester United. Obviously one of the greatest teams on the face of the planet. And I hope we can catch up again soon and hear how your coaching journey is going, because I know you're going to be just as successful as you were as a player. Tom, thanks so much for spending some time with me. You are a tarp puller, as I like to say on this show every week. You're forever part of the tarp puller community, and we'll have to catch up again soon. All right, my friend?
Pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today's a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.